Welcome to another Wednesday night of streaming miniature painting and related issues, and me ranting about crazy things like role-playing games in general, and just stuff. Hey Emily, glad to see you around. Are you doing well? You're doing okay. Well, that is nice to hear. Today I was kind of sort of a little meh about what to do. Oh, you're tired. Yeah, I mean, it's those long, dark winter nights here in April or something. Anyway, as you may be able to see, I've added the 3 pictures I have of the kittens that I'm getting Friday afternoon, which for those watching later is less than 48 hours from now. Needless to say, I'm so happy. I'm so giddy and I'm excited and I'm nervous all at the same time because I really want them to feel good and feel well. I've been out getting some of the bare necessities like a small cat tree, the stuff with some soft places for them to sleep in, and so they have a little bit of something. The plan is to just keep them in the office here for the first period. I don't know how long they'll they want to be on their own here or hanging out with me up here in the office, or if they just want to go exploring straight off. I don't know. I don't really care. We'll just take that as it comes. I mean, that is entirely up to them. However, I also got, litter box, litter, some cat toys, stuff like that. I still have the old food and water bowls from my old cats, but I did not save the litter box. I mean, that was just, that felt too gross. So anyway, what I have today is I need a little bit of detail on her. Hey AJ! Yeah, there are kittens, but that's, as you can see, not a live stream, obviously. And yeah, the litter box just, nah. But the food bowls, I actually have one of the water fountains as well. The one with the small motor in it, so the water gets circulated and all that. I have that down in the basement somewhere. I have the bowls. They come with a bunch of food, so they can continue on the exact same food that they've been on. And until I've seen exactly what that is and how much they eat and all that, then I won't buy anything, but I'll get some over the weekend or whatever. So basically we should be all good, ready to go. I just need to assemble the cat tree. I considered doing that on stream, but then I just figured, nah, I'm just not going to do that. I am, however, going to be making a few bases. Oh, it is the Leland Steel. Good to see you, buddy. And John, working and lurking. Best kind. In other sort of miniature related news, I think I may have mentioned this before, but now it's been finalized, that we talked at the office where I work. They're doing a lot, putting a lot of effort to do social things, get those started up again, doing it online when we can during Corona shutdown, which we're still dealing with. I know it's going better with the vaccines and all that, but stay frosty and stay safe, everyone. It isn't over just yet. Still probably a couple of months to go. But since I like doing these kind of events, I've somehow managed to volunteer for an evening's paint instruction that I'll be just streaming over Teams to my coworkers from home here. And the awesome thing is that we actually got funding for these kind of things, because I mean, for companies, having your employees stick around for a few hours, hanging out, socializing on a weeknight, just chillaxing, eating snacks, whatever. That is actually worth something to the company from a social point of view. So to them, it didn't really matter when I asked if we could get sort of an army painter starter set, which is, I think 9 bottles of paint and 1 quick shade and a brush. And I fixed up a Hero Forge mini that I'm gonna be printing on my 3D printer. So everyone gets the same model. I've tried to put it in a pose and all that where it's reasonably beginner friendly, and I'll just be talking people through it. So that's gonna be fun. So May 18th, which is not one of my normal streaming days, it's Tuesday. I hope I got the dates right so it doesn't conflict with my normal D&D group, which is on Tuesdays. It'll be fine. We played yesterday, so the next time must be the 11th of May. Yeah, that's good. See, I can do math in my head, AJ, because math isn't really that hard. Now, for the bases, I'm gonna go with the same kind of look and feel as I did with the rest of the family squad and Perdita's squad. We have the pistoleros here, down here. Also, I've got my camera moving in from the side, so when I move right, it's actually down in frame. So I'm probably gonna be a little confused about that. I also still struggling with a good camera angle. Maybe I just need to get a better lens and just be able to just pull up the camera all the way and just zoom in. I mean, it's mounted on an arm, so it's not like it's gonna be all jittery and shaky just because it's zoomed. So I might look into that. But we have the pistoleros. We've seen those before. Let's get them down here. And then we have the 2 monster hunters, which I'm nearly done with her and still need a lot on him. But I'm basically going to go with the same setup, which is just regular green flogging, and then some rocks and boulders in it. But I figured it would actually be kind of fun to just sit here and do that. Do the modeling, do the bases, and then when the glue needs to dry or whatever, I can also just put a little paint on some of the miniatures. Yeah. So we'll do that, and then I'll try to talk about what I'm considering when doing this. Now, I will not be putting on the flock until the very end, because I don't want to have to glue their small feet. I need to obviously cut them off the corks here. I don't want to glue the feet on top of the flock, and I don't want to leave room in the flock for their feet, because that's going to be more difficult than what I dare attempt. Finding the right spots where I shouldn't put in glue, so all of that. However, let's just stick to it. We've got, let's see here, 5 bases. I should move my face somewhere. That's okay. I just need to maybe do like this. Thanks for the lurk, Sahashian Bias. Pleasure to have you here. Cool that you're DMing. That's awesome. I appreciate the lurk. I will see you when I see you, I guess. Also, for the bases, I'm gonna be putting in some rocks, also known out in the real world as small pieces of cork, because cork is known for being really solid, dense, heavy, and downright dangerous if you throw it at people or whatever. So basically, I just have this huge, well, it's not huge, just container of different bits and pieces, and I basically just want to have it on some of them, like this dude here. This dude here. There you go. I don't want to sort of put a huge chunk of rock in front of him, because that's gonna, to me at least, that's gonna seem like, with his cape billowing out, and then the rock there. I don't know if you can imagine that when it gets painted. This would be too much sort of up and behind him and then down in front of him, which would sort of, to me at least, sort of tilt the entire miniature, sort of the lines through the miniature. So for him, I would do something like the smaller pieces of rock, but down here, so he's sort of kind of standing on it. Or I may go completely crazy and actually lift him up so he's raised a little bit standing on the rocks, but I've never done that. It's probably gonna fail miserably. But I mean, something like this seems like it would be good. So why don't I just go ahead and do that for at least, you know, one of the bases. I mean, for comparison, this guy here, if I put in, maybe not that big, but if I put in that kind of piece of rock here, to me it would seem more sort of doable or workable, I guess, because it doesn't have the cape sticking out here. That's just my thoughts. As always, this is a creative process, so do whatever you like. It is about doing what you feel is right and what you want with your models, not what I want with your models. And also, just gonna pick up my super glue, because super glue dries a lot faster. And since it dries faster, we can get on with all the fun part of it, like painting it and all that. I just realized that I do not have things ready for priming the bases, but we'll just do that by hand, which is fine. It's always good to go a little back to the basics and do something like priming by hand, whatever. So super glue, careful not to get this stuck in on your fingers, on your beard. Well, unless Modifian is here. Because you would love to see me glue my beard onto something, I guess. Crazy person. So there we go. The question is, will this actually hold? And how long does it take to hold in place? Now, no glue and beard, got it, says Emily, and that is absolutely correct, because beard and glue is a really, really horrible match. I imagine, I have never tried it. I don't want to try it. Some people say that you should try everything once. I am gonna say no on this one here. Yes, this is kind of what I was afraid of. I mean, here you can see that a part of the boulder or cork really has been glued in, but the other part don't want to stay down. So I was hoping the super glue would do it. I'm also kind of thinking that maybe I should just have, you know, found some sandpaper and just ground down the cork. Fortunately, we have sandpaper here, so why don't we just go ahead and do that? Rid of the excess glue and just... I mean, at least this way it's gonna get kind of a flat side that I can glue it to. And yeah, you're absolutely right, Emily. Some things just don't need to be personally experienced. That is so very true. I really, seriously, I really don't get the whole, oh, but you have to try it, and sort of like, yeah, a lot of things will actually kill you. So you can't really try too many of those. So yeah. Let's see if this helped. Yeah, probably did. And I know this actually doesn't look like much, especially when I keep knocking this one off, so it's an empty base. But I mean, in my experience, where are we here? This with a little bit of paint on the rocks to make them look like, you know, grayish rocks. Maybe a little bit of green shade for some kind of leaching or moss effect. Yeah, I mean, it's that's more than enough. I mean, it does give the miniature something a lot more pleasant, sort of a pleasant finish and look. I mean, this one here is even nicely sort of crumbly detailed. So again, if you just do it in here so people can see, it's just really simple. I just take a piece of sandpaper. Is it called sandpaper in English? Yes, it is. And just grind it down until it's hopefully a lot more flat. I think it's actually a very overused piece of sandpaper I have here. It's also very fine-grained sandpaper. Oh, and Emily also says no skydiving or bear teasing for me. Absolutely correct. I would also highly recommend that you don't do any beard teasing, because beards have a tendency to turn into bears. Bears? Yeah. Especially if you don't give them beer. Ah, crappy, horrible wordplay there. So... no. It also doesn't help that, you know, this piece of sandpaper is bending all over the place, so it's not a flat surface that I'm actually doing this on. We tried, and then of course the cork keeps bending a little bit when I press on it, so I can see that it doesn't actually go flat. It's like kind of goes rounded on the bottom. It is it's kind of new to me. It doesn't usually do that. But then again, I also tend to use less fine-grained. I mean, this is 240 grit sandpaper, so it's reasonably fine. Going up to like, I don't know, 80 or 120 would probably be better, because it would just remove more of the cork. So I just need fewer strokes, and hence less chance of me messing it up. Anyway, that seemed to do the trick. And yeah, I know this isn't sort of the most exciting thing to watch, but it is a part of, you know, the miniature hobby. So we need to get this up front here. It's all part of the same hobby, and it's what I've been doing kind of with the other bases, just before gluing on the models. So I would do like this, and then stick the model to it, and then paint the model, and then try and get the base to look nice. This time around I wanted to do it, you know, the painting the models separately and then doing the bases separately, as it's a lot simpler to... Also, these sort of round-edged bases here are absolutely terrible to pick up from a flat piece of paper when you don't have like a miniature or something glued onto them. Like, you know, here I can use him or the cork as a handle and actually pick it up, and, you know, having to go down here and pick it up, just whatever. So for the next one, this guy here, what does he want? He wants, I mean, he definitely wants, you know, as the cape is actually pretty high up here. Again, something behind him, going a little bit out towards the front. But I'm thinking a couple of smaller pieces. This one. And for that, I am actually gonna use the PVA glue. Because these are gonna be sort of bundled all over the place, and I don't want to do that with super glue. So let's do that, and let's something there. So, I mean, this base is gonna need a little bit longer to dry. Put this into place, and I'm gonna put a bit more here. I mean, it doesn't really matter because we'll be putting the flock on afterwards, so it doesn't matter that there's some, you know, a layer of glue in the middle here. It doesn't concern me, because it's going to be covered by another layer of glue and then some flock. And let's just find something here. So now we have, instead of just having, you know, one large rock, we have a bunch of them, and hopefully that will make it look more sort of real, or I'm not gonna say organic when we're talking about rocks, because this probably is silicium based, as I recall from school. I just need a little bit of glue in there. Isn't really precision tools I'm using here. Let's take a battered old brush that we don't mind getting glue on. And let's... Wow. It's a very battered old brush. It's basically just spreading down the glue a little bit and just putting this into place. Just make sure we have glue between the different pieces of the rock, or I'm just going to keep calling it rocks, even though it is cork. You know what I mean? I know you do. So that one there. So, what have people been up to lately? Anything good? Anything interesting? Any news from the front? Ooh, oh yeah. A lot of the people watching here and listening in here tonight are members of the Incorrigible Party podcast. And that is not what I tried to do. So let's give them a shout out. If you like Dungeons and Dragons, if you like good storytelling, if you like fun and games, if you like people having fun, if you just basically like awesomeness, you should go give the Incorrigible Party a go. Just don't do what I do. I keep getting behind, and then every few weeks I'll do a binge and just catch up with all of it. I don't know. It's just somehow I end up doing that. So yeah, always shout out for you guys. So, well, what can I say? I mean, I've listened to what I think we can actually say hundreds of hours of your entertainment so far, Lilian and Emily, and AJ, whoever was also watching you guys, and I have really enjoyed it. Some more than others, because we all have our favorite bits and pieces, but definitely just so much fun. So, that was 3 bases for those kind of people. Now for this lovely lady here, she'll obviously be a little bit more sort of centered on the base, but I figured that I don't want to do a lot of rocks because she has this very nice blouse. So instead, what I think I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put her in gravel. It would be nice to have the grass as well, because the grass is kind of the theme for the other miniatures, but there should always be at least one miniature that just stands out and is completely different. And even though I have that, think I'm basically just gonna stick with this, which actually means that we should probably cut her loose and do it immediately, because this kind of is the final part of the thing here. For that I need not this X-Acto knife, I actually need the other one. It's just at the other table. So there we go. Always use good tools. But there's something else I actually wanted to at least mention, rant about tonight. And it is that I'm actually about to start off yet another role-playing campaign with some friends. I've been playing some Forbidden Lands from the Free League, the Swedish company, and I didn't particularly like that system. That's my preference. I also kind of happy that this knife is sharp, but not too sharp, because I just cut myself in the finger with it without going through my skin, so that's good. No, but I didn't really like the Forbidden Lands, and then our DM and one of the other players, they became parents. Congratulations to them again. And then the campaign kind of sort of just stopped, which is not too worried about that. And my finger's fine. No cut, nothing damage or cut. But I'm not really sure that this whole gluing them on to cork. I mean, it's a new process I'm doing here with the gluing the miniatures onto the cork and then hopefully being able to better paint them. Not sure I like it. No, but the other group there, two of the players have been kind of sort of asking me a few times if we should do some role-playing games and all that. And then since I sort of accidentally came across Sandy Peterson's Cthulhu Mythos line of products for 5e, Dungeons & Dragons 5e, or as he has to probably say it, 5e fantasy, to avoid using the term Dungeons & Dragons, then I figured why not ask them if they wanted to go insane with me. And lo and behold, they did. So good on them, I guess. So for the past week or so, we've been trying to coordinate things, get people up and running. We have one dude who's been playing a lot of D&D 5e. I've never met him, but he's one of the other players' brother. And then we have another one from the States that I don't know, but one of the others said that they were cool people and we should welcome them, so we did. And then we have the two players from the Forbidden Lands campaign, and I'll be DMing it. So if someone in the audience have been wondering why I suddenly start throwing nasty, horrible, horrific, Cthulhu-esque monsters into a certain other game, then now you know. And yeah, Emily, it does sound like this campaign will be a lot of fun. So, decide with that. I mean, I haven't... Well, there's a lot of new things in the Mythos book. Some of it is doing... They're called formulas, which actually allows people to cast spells without being spellcasters. You have no idea what you're talking about, just says innocently. Yes. Oh, but Emily, you do know what I'm talking about. So if I want to have her, Monster Hunter, standing like this, with gravel all around, I guess the thing to do is to just pour glue and gravel on and then just put it down like that. I mean, for gravel, I think I'm going to go with this. So she'll be standing on this gray layer here. So. Now, one of the things I do like about the Mythos book is that it feels, from what I've seen so far, it feels really, really well integrated with 5th edition. It really does seem like you can do things you want to do, and unlike the normal Call of Cthulhu role-playing games, this is actually aimed at a fantasy setting. So that is perhaps the thing about it I like the most. So we are not running around in the 20s and all that. I love that setting for a lot of the Cthulhu Lovecraft stuff. But having all of this available in the fantasy setting with your classic menagerie of dwarves and elves and all the other mess, that really, I don't know, it tickles something in me. So I just wanted to do it. And I am. Also, just to keep it a little bit consistent with my real life crew, I just decided that I might as well just say that we're playing in the Greyhawk world, because I know that one. Not all of it, but I know enough that I can actually sort of comfortably be a DM and talk about different locations and people, and it'll mean I stick to one world at a time, which I'm pretty sure is a good idea to avoid getting too confused or confuzzled, as I'm still like to play it now. And now for the fun part, getting her into this mess I created on the base here. Basically, I need to put her down there. So we need a lot of super glue in those bits, in those holes. Okay, I'm not having a good feeling about how this is going to turn out, because the glue is making the gravel sort of clump together, and it's making it really difficult to actually get her positioned on the base. And I'm really, really scared that I'm going to be putting some of the gravel with glue onto the model itself. But let's see. Now, at least I think I've got her positioned. Now I just need to hold her in place for about... Usually you say that super glue glues tightens or hardens in 10 seconds or so. My experience is it's a lot more with these plastic models. Also, cheers, everyone. And I can kind of feel that it's not done yet. But at least it looks like she's now standing on her own. And now, I do know that it seems a little sort of bland, the base here. If you look at it real closely, once the camera can pick up, it really just is a bunch of gravel around the model. But I think with the flowing dress and all that, I mean, this is not that colorful, because they do go for the dark background colors, kind of. But it does, with the flowing dress and the green hair and all that, there's a lot of bulk to this model. It takes up a lot of room, so having all sorts of small details in the base, to me that would be a little bit too much. So that's why I'm trying to stick with a more simple or simplistic base. I just looking at at a distance, I think it works. So we'll put her over to the side and hope she doesn't fall over and actually stays there. So I think I actually managed to put her just about right on the base. So let's just clean up. That's the thing, when using stuff like flock or the small things like this, I don't know if it's also flock or whatever, it always leaves a mess. It's gonna be all over the place. I try to use the lid sometimes, or a piece of paper, definitely, just to catch most of it, so you can either reuse it or at least throw it out if there's too much glue in it. But anyway, for this guy here, what do we want to do with him? I mean, he's got this wide stance, so it kind of screams at something, but I think basically having him stand in some, it's not going to be a base for now, it's going to be later. I'm going to take some of the small tufts of grass, so doing this, still having the grass flock, and then maybe either the slightly burned sort of ones or the more sort of crispy greens. Does get some height to it, some 3D-ish effect. But I can do that once his finished painting and I'm doing the actual base. Now, in the meantime, if I could actually pick this up. This one has glued down quite nicely. I should get... I should use the... No, I should actually... This is the thing. I shouldn't use the airbrush for this, because what I like with this crew as well is to leave the rim of the base completely black. Not painted black, but just the unpainted plastic. So I actually do want to do the priming in by hand with the brush. And I want to do... I'm just looking at the brushes and getting a nice big brush to just slough on a lot of white paint to give a good base to paint with. Let's go. See. Hey, Cops! You're doing D&D. I'm guessing you're having bias as your DM. Be kind to your DM. DMs do... Well, let's be honest. DMs don't really do anything. They just look around at the players and have them do all the things themselves and just sit around quietly laughing at their attempts at being heroes. So, speaking of DMing, we had a regular session yesterday in real life, and it's going quite well. I think they're at level 8 by now. Yeah, Leland knows what I'm talking about. And Emily, yeah, or anti-heroes, that's sometimes even more fun, especially when the anti-heroes inevitably turn out to actually do all the right things, so they're just goody-goody two-shoes. Nothing ruins a supervillain's day like accidentally doing heroic stuff. Now, anyway, as I was saying, for primer we use these one here, Vallejo. I decided last time just to call him Vallejo, Vallejo, whatever, because I'm never gonna get it right anyway. Standard white. I also use this for the airbrush. It's really good one. You can of course use rattle cans if you like. It's nice and thin, and just using it straight off my wet palette. So it is fairly easy to put on a nice layer. But as you can see here, where can I put this so you can actually see it? As you can see here on the black, what's it, tarmac, the black plastic here, it really is, it doesn't really cover that well, at least not in the first go, which is fine. Just give it another one. Always better to have several thin coats than one thick. And here I'm trying my best to not to go all the way out to the edges, but not go up on the edge itself or the rim. The base of the base is inset So there's a slight raised rim around it. And it's okay to get the paint on the inside of that raised edge, as long as it doesn't go on to the top or the outside, because that's the part I want to leave totally black. And like that. Now this is not the, no, that's not the final primer, base coat, whatever, not the base coat primer, but it is a good first go. Now, to give you an idea about just how thin this paint actually is, I'm just going to show you my wet palette, because this desk is almost but not quite level. I didn't sort of fill it in. And what you can see here is that I just put out an angle, or sort of a circular glob of paint, and it's drifted down a little bit. And it's not like, you know, it's not like it's a 45-degree angle or tilt to the table, but just enough that a thin liquid will migrate towards the edge of the table in this case. So yeah, so it's nice and thin. No, but yesterday's game session was kind of supposed to be the culmination of the last several sessions of messing around in a small town. This is partly driven by an old plot line that I tried to put into place when they were about second level or so, but that didn't take off because they didn't really sort of rise to the challenge, didn't take the bait, which is fine. I'm just leaving it around until later when they're in the same area of the world, and then I spring it on them again and just tie it up again to some innocent people they actually killed. There was a little bit of a murder hobo to one of the players in the group, or at least to his character, which I didn't understand because it was good aligned and he was supposed to be a hero and blah blah blah, and he just randomly shoots two people who were running down. The only thing they had done, as far as he knew, was that they had been, they were running down the street in the middle of the night wearing black cloaks, and that was basically it. Nothing else, nothing more. So that would be the anti-hero part. And that did lead to some discussions internally in the group about what exactly they were doing and why and all that. And just this player just did this whole, oh, but we'd heard there were cultist murderers in the city and these people were running in cloaks, so they obviously had to be shot. And I just went, I have to admit, in the middle of it all, I kind of just blanked on how to handle it. That was not something I'd seen coming, and especially not the complete lack of regret in this player. For other reasons, he has actually left the group because he moved to the other end of the country. But it was just, that was just weird. Yeah, black clothes are super suspicious, but if you're a good aligned character, you don't just assassinate people for wearing black clothes, or if you do, I should probably rethink my entire wardrobe. So anyway, they are now back in roughly the same area, so I decided, hey, let's pull out this entire cast of characters I prepared and the internal struggle between two magical orders, you know, hiding out in a small merchant town, stuff like that. And so we've done that for the last couple of game sessions, neatly tied up in some deception that made them think that the maximum security prison just around the door was actually the sinister part. It isn't. Well, it is sinister, but it is of little relevance to them at the moment. So anyway, the final climax to all of this was that one of the characters wanted to flush out these people, the cultists that they felt was doing something nasty and wrong. So he threw a town-wide party in the middle of the night, hoping that something would happen, and of course it did. He knows me that well. So anyway, the cultist sees this as the perfect chance to have a lot of willing sacrifices, also known as innocent bystanders, who would gather in a fairly small confined area that they could, in the days leading up to all of this, suitably prepare as a magic summoning circle for their evil god. And this is the part where I shouldn't really say a lot more about their plans and plots, because my group hasn't gotten to all of that yet. And while I think they're not watching, they might. I mean, we're still 2 weeks until we're playing, and they know I'm streaming, and they know I talk about all sorts of things, so they might watch. Not to get spoilers, but just to hear random shit. Anyway, during the party, obviously, they started the ritual, blah, 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 lots of fire, some cultists sacrificing themselves to summon in stuff. A couple of imps to have a little bit of fun with, and because it got too late yesterday, we had to do a cliffhanger at the very end, where one of the players, who is a rogue / warlock, I think, he has his reasons to stay in this circle. It's sort of a huge, 100 feet, 100-foot circle of fire that starts out as a small band around the edge, and then it just spreads until the entire circle is all fire. And it's the kind of fire where if normal people just hit it, they just instantly burn up. Don't ask me to give you a stat block for it, because that's not how I do these things. If I want innocent bystanders to die, I kill them. That also sounds wrong, but it sets the stage and it makes people suitably respectful of the fire. So heading on here to second layer of paint, and yeah, so he's standing there in the middle of the circle. He actually managed to make an opening, so he saved about half the people who were at his party and about to die because they were at his party. He managed to save a lot of them, which is cool, nicely done. And then he heard his patron, his warlock patron, warlock-sized patron, tell him that this is indeed the Night Shadow that is approaching. And he has, in his backstory, been given a task as rogue to steal the Night Shadow. So I think it's beginning to dawn on him that he doesn't need to steal the Night Shade. It's called Night Shade because it's the same word in Danish as the plant family, where you have stuff like, I think, tomatoes, chili, maybe? I'm not a botanist. But basically, it started out like sounding like a plant. And now it seems like he has actually been tasked to steal an entire demon. Yeah, I'm guessing that should be fun for me. So that was the cliffhanger, was most of the party getting out of the circle, beating down the lead cultist. Some of the other cultists ran away. They'll have to deal with them later, or not, as they see fit. The ritual is kind of sort of been interrupted, but at the same time, well, they could have interrupted it if they had just gotten everyone out of the circle. But since this one guy now has motivation to see it through, so this Nightshade demon thingy actually shows up so he can steal it. Well, that is where we made the cliffhanger last night. I mean, people had a good time of it. They were suitably sad that a lot of innocent people in the town had succumbed to the evil cultists' ritual. But at the same time, I mean, things are not looking that bad anymore, except for the guy in the middle. So, there's always one adventurer who just goes, oh wait, we could stop this demon from coming into the world. Or we could bring it into the world because that might be interesting. We might get something out of this. So now the floor is open to your suggestions about just how nasty a demon this should be. I mean, they're level 8, so that if it has to come to actual battle, that's a limitation. That's not the issue here. What I'm more thinking about is, would it be most fun to sort of fairly short term have this demon just be caught so he can reach his steal the Nightshade goal? Or would it be more fun to have him, the demon, running around as a recurring villain that either pops up once in a while or gets summoned by evil cults? I mean, some of the cultists will survive this ordeal. Some of the people in the cult didn't even know they were in an actual cult. They thought it was just a sort of merchant network doing, oh, let's wear fancy black robes, blah, 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 and pretend we're a secret society and really just use it to, exchange business ideas. But then this one guy shows up who actually has magical abilities, and yeah, accident cultists, all been there. That's actually true, Emily, so true. Accidental tourist, accidental cultist, same deal. So anyway, that was the main highlight from yesterday's game session. And tying tying a small loop back to the Mythos campaign. One of the things I really liked about bringing in something like not just a demon and not a sort of demigod like Tiamat or whatever into D&D is from the role-playing game or system called Earthdawn, which is world-wise, I think, still my favorite. I always have a hard time actually, deciding on favorites because there's so many good things about everything, or most things. So it's difficult to say this one is unquestionably better than everything else. But Earthdawn, the world they've made, the universe they've made for that, has something called horrors, which I really, really, really like. It is a little bit like sort of named demons or stuff from regular mythology. You can think of it not as demigods, but as powerful as demigods, but they're purely destructive forces as much as individual anthropomorphic beings. They're actually quite often not anthropomorphic beings. They're just ancient powers, a little bit like some of the Cthulhu ancient ones or elder gods and so on, like Nyarlathotep, also known as crawling chaos. It is not so much an entity as an effect or something that happens, but it's still a force. So it's not like a big demon, big scary dragon coming to eat all your sheep. It's not that kind of entity. It's more a infect everyone in the world with weird things and thoughts, so people slowly but surely go insane and further the chaos and the usual Saturday night fun. But that kind of element to a game, to me, is something I as a DM enjoy. As a player, I also enjoy it a lot because you never really know what's going to happen. It's not like you can point your finger and say the bad guy is over there. So all the game mechanical effects, like maybe detect evil or whatever, detect evil presences, whatever, you're in an area saturated by this infection, this influence, this weird thing. So it's not standing over there in the guise of a beggar or whatever. It's all over the place. It's in everyone or it's in no one, it's in the ground. So you can't really use that to just go, oh, it's that guy, let's go kill him. You really have to sort of work with the idea and concepts and really dig into it and figure out how can we cleanse, purify, whatever is needed to get rid of that terrible presence. And that gives a different dynamic. And I've come across this in something I know I've mentioned before, which is, it's called Vincent Baker. I think he's the guy who did Apocalypse World and other games, where he talks about the concept of fronts. I mean, sure, this guy here, he could be a front. One front, this guy, he's a gunslinger. What is his goals? What is his desires? What does he want out of life? Why is he doing the things he's doing? Who is he doing it to? That is, the concept of a front is more the typical bad guy, boss monster thing. However, if you look at a city, if you don't break it down into individuals, you can just look at the entire city and see that the city has goals. The city wants to prosper, it wants to grow, or it is maybe a thief city like, take Tortuga from pirate myth. Yeah, it's a place where some people may want to be able to lay low without having to worry about not the law and sort of ultimately, but at least enough about the law that the laws they break. They still want to have some kind of understanding that they don't get too beaten up or accidentally killed in random fights and all that. Just a place where they can go, this is our safe haven. Yet at the same time, the city itself wants to grow, and since they are pirates, they want to spread, and they want to have more pirates, they want to have more loot, and all those things. So one of Tortuga's goals in this line of thinking, or motivations, would be to, again, growth and spreading influence, but also in a way corrupting everything around it, because this comes at a pretty heavy price at whoever's around it. So this would be like an anthill. It also wants to grow, but it spreads out and it destroys the undergrowth and is horrible for people with picnic baskets and all those things. So it also spreads a kind of corruption. That's nature. It's not on an objective good evil scale corruption thingy, but it is in a sense. How should I put this? It is destructive to whatever surrounds it. I think that's the diplomatic way of saying it, and also describes a lot of the civilizations Earth have seen throughout the last 5,000-8,000 years. So anyway, my point is, when you start breaking down your elements in your game world into things that has goals and desires on some level of detail, a city wants to grow, a kingdom wants to grow as well. The king has other motivations than the kingdom. So see everything as the fronts, living beings, things, entities. And then all of a sudden you have something you can use as enemies or allies to the players without them being physically present in the form of this guy. This guy is coming to help you fight the monster. He has a gun and a sword. Go him. No, this is more sort of like, I mean, the druids would get this. I mean, the land helps you. Cool. All the vegetation comes to life. You've seen this in Lord of the Rings. Fangorn Forest eats all the orcs. Yeah. Well, not all the orcs. Some, yeah, it does actually eat the orcs in Uruk-hai after the battle at Helm Deep, and they're running away. And all of a sudden, there's this tree line that miraculously appeared overnight, and let's just run into it and get eaten by the trees. Now, how would you, in a traditional this is a monster or a group of monsters sense, how would you implement, it's probably the word in a game, implement this entire forest? And again, Vincent Baker does a really nice description of with the whole front and things. I'm probably also forgetting some of the other terms he uses. It's been a while. It's been several years, about 5 years or so, since I read his works. But that being said, that kind of idea, I like to put that in. So I don't just have a static town. I have a town with some goals, a town that's going somewhere. Or I have an infestation in a town where the town really wanted to prosper, but it's kind of succumbed to whatever is hidden underneath the surface. It could be Skaven in Warhammer, it could be chaos, it could be horrors in Earthdawn, it could be a demon from hell or necromancer or whatever in D&D, or it could just be something else. It could be, I don't know, whatever. And that sort of twists everything around it. So anyway, I promised in the description that I would rant, so I did. I will also need to put in some green on these bases now. We'll use the Goblin green, and as you can see, I have not used this in quite a while, so it is dark green up here and light green down there. So it's just gonna need a little bit of shaking up in my trusty old tattoo ink bottle shaker. The forest sprouting up overnight is really cool. I mean, it's I cannot remember the books. I read Lord of the Rings when I would say when I was 10, 11, and 12, because it took me a while to get through them at that age. So I don't remember exactly how it's described in the books. But the whole concept of, whoops, now suddenly forests, suddenly trees or whatever. That's a crappy reference to EVE Online, suddenly spaceships. But yeah, we're just sprouting up a forest, or, I mean, moving a forest might seem on some level more sort of well consistent. You move the trees from one place to another, but that also kind of leaves a whole other slew of something over here is making a noise that I don't like. There we go. A whole slew of other issues and potential problems that I'm not sure I want to explore. If you know what I mean. But yeah, but doing that, it's just, it really messes with what goes on. And again, I like doing these things, especially for the effect, because to me, a lot of the things with role playing, what I enjoy, is not the game mechanics of it. It's not what I in my mind see as the board game element, where you're running around, you have your character, you roll your dice and all that. I'm all for that. I love doing that part of role playing as well. But the storytelling aspect for me works so much better when I, as a DM, don't have to give stat blocks. Or let's take the ritual I did yesterday. That was all me describing this large ring of fire that grew and everything. But if some of the players had said, hey, we want to find this ritual and do it ourselves, what are the stats, how many people do we need to drive it properly and all that, I do not want to come up with those answers, because like with so many other things, getting all those details kind of destroys the illusion of something gruesome happening. So I just want to leave that up to descriptions, and then when the players try to leave the circle, I'm not going to go around giving them a bunch of, well, I may have given them, I don't actually think they hit the fire at any point, but I might have given them some damage just to show that they are heroes and don't die as easily. But yeah. But I like doing sort of the descriptive and narrative combat against the fire, because here the ring of fire was one of their opponents in this particular encounter, and you can't really just beat it with your sword or throw spells at it. It's just need to do other things like falling in favor with your patron to open up a passage so the townspeople could get out. I mean, I had not foreseen that exact outcome. I mean, I had figured out that they would need some kind of way to get people out of this, like either stopping the ritual entirely or early enough that it didn't sort of fully complete or whatever. But the warlock pulling in his patron and saying, hey, I know I've sort of been a little bit on the side with you, but if you help me out here, I'm all yours. And the patron going, oh, I can work with this. So coming from Leland, the idea or something like that, a random phenomena going on in the background, definitely adds to the feel of the world. Exactly that. To me, I try to make my world come alive, even if it's not my world, but Greyhawk in this particular case. Because I think it makes it so much better to play in. So yeah. So anyway. Now we just need to figure out exactly what happens. I mean, apart from the demon that's about to show up, they still have 4 imps that was last seen going invisible. I know how that sounded, and it did not sound good. But that's just, and I mean, imps to 8 level characters is not going to be a huge issue. But just the fact that knowing that someone can pop up and attack you going straight from invisible to just being behind you and stabbing you with advantage, or let's skip the part where they think about advantage and just going, something can disappear out of thin air right behind you and stab you in the back. I mean, to me, that description is far more scary than you can be attacked by an imp with advantage. Because an imp with advantage is a game mechanic, a game effect. It's something you can do something about. It's something you can factor in and say, oh, but then my chances of getting hit are this and that, so I better do, you know, these, I better dodge or whatever you can do. But thinking about it and describing it to the players as this little annoying imp can disappear out of thin air anywhere, because it has plenty of time to fly around. I mean, it's invisible. It's got a nice long movement. Nothing else to do, so it can basically dash all over the place with the speed of whatever, doesn't matter. It can easily be in any place I want it to be at the time I want it to be there, as long as it doesn't randomly pop up too many places right after each other. So that kind of opposition is a lot more fun for me as well, in an impish way, because I can use that to apply psychological pressure of fear of the unknown. When is it going to show up? What's it going to do? Is it going to attack the spellcaster in the back? Is it going to go for the fighter killing off the big monster in the middle, or whatever? It can show up anywhere, and not knowing that means they have to spend not only game mechanic resources on it, but as players they have to spend to focus their attention on it. I don't know, it's just I like doing stuff like that. No, I don't think any of you who here were in the last the Diamond Head adventure where you found Atlagnacha. That also, the way I did it there was that at the end they just finally beaten off all the spiders in the cave and blah blah blah, and they rescued an orc that was profusely happy and really just wanted to get away. Because if you find someone who's been put in a cage in an abandoned mine infested with really nasty spiders, I'm kind of surprised that not a lot of the players there actually stopped and thought, who put him in the cage? But he basically just let them know, oh no, it's coming, kind of thing. And then they all black out, have a sort of shared wish and dream about this horrific creature, just Atlagnacha spinning its web and blah blah blah. You know the rest of the story about that. In essence, no game mechanics involved. just a description. But in many ways, that was kind of the to me, at least since I came up with it, probably. That's my ego talking. That was kind of the combination of what I wanted to do with this adventure, other than the whole story about the beard that had been cut off, and the ghost or spirit of a dwarf cleric needed someone to go down and find the beard it had cut off so it could be restored to its previous owner, thus getting him out of this whole I'm a lingering ghost kind of situation. But other than that, I wanted to place an influence and effect in the game world, and just give everyone something to play with that. So when will we see Atlak Nacha? Maybe never, maybe tomorrow. Will we ever see him again? Will we even see him again? Maybe, maybe not. But it's there and it's lurking, so you have to be aware of it. Just like I'm also gonna, at some point, hopefully others as well, we're gonna put in some more positive vibes in the game world. And yeah. So I mean, hopefully it's gonna be, when I do things like that, what I really want to do is I want to make memorable stories, things that people remember more than, oh, you know that time we went to that hole in the ground and beat up some spiders? Yeah, that was kind of fun. As opposed to, hey, do you remember that time when we thought we were beating up spiders and then we realized that a very large spider was about to consume our souls? And when I'm subjected to the latter, that has a far longer lasting effect on me and the stories told. So yeah. So that was D&D ranting with Skjall. And again, it's all about storytelling. It's also about, what players are you playing with? Because some people, I'm always reminded of way back in the day. I went to one of the cons in Denmark, and a guy named Robin Laws gave a speech, a lecture, whatever it's called, about he's been writing for Earthborn and done some work for Warhammer, the Warhammer Fantasy roleplay. Wrote a novel for that. He's probably also done other things, but we chatted a little bit afterwards as well. Cool guy. And what he talked about during that lecture was that he had been in a place, like a con or whatever, and at cons you'll always get a lot of different players at the same table, different background in playing, how they prefer to play and all that. And they had this guy who was just sitting around and looking like, I don't remember all the details, basically just he was kind of with the wrong DM or the wrong group for this, because after a while, when they've been sitting there and the DM and the other players try to get some kind of talking, role-playing, acting out going, and discussing everything, he just kind of stared blankly ahead of him, slapped the desk twice and said, "Next fight," because that was the kind of group he was used to playing in. They did not go into the whys of why they were in the dungeon, the whys of everything, other than you go somewhere, you get a reward, that kind of thing. So basically, like what a lot of the MMOs, computer role-playing games like World of Warcraft is about. Yeah, there's a narrative, there's a story, but essentially you just click on the quest giver, click OK a few times, look on your map, go to the spot with the X. At the spot with the X, you kill everything that's red, and you click on everything that's clickable, and then you go back to the quest giver, and you get your reward. So that was a kind of role-playing games he was used to, that kind of groups. And it's just stuck in my mind, because it's very different from, it's almost exactly the same I grew up with in the early days when I started playing role-playing games when I was like 11, I think. So we did a lot of fighting and a lot of dungeon crawling and a lot of beating monsters and optimizing our characters and all those things, which was cool, which was fun. And then we just gradually slid over into the storytelling and the acting, those aspects of role-playing, which are neither more nor less important than the action fighty thing, or they have no importance at all if you don't want it to, or it has all the importance in the world if that's what you want to do. That's entirely up to finding the right kind of group. The group I was with and played with, and we've been playing for like 20-25 years by now, we just grew as a group, and we got older, got lazy, didn't want to read up on all the different bonuses and modifiers, so I guess that's also a little bit part of it. But eventually we just hit upon, you know, the storytelling and the acting being what drove us for this. So yeah. There was a point to this. Yeah, the whole next fight thing. So why did I bring that up? I brought that up because a lot of people play differently, and throwing something like game effects, like I've mentioned here, a forest sprouting up overnight as Leland wrote, or this ritual that summons a demon, and you will not be able to find it in any of the published or unpublished homebrew internet content, because it only exists in my head and it doesn't have a stat block there. Some people will be greatly opposed to that, because how will they ever be able to fight it if they cannot see how many hit points it has, or maybe they can't even deal damage to it or whatever. If you're playing with those kind of people, do not do these things to them, because that is not productive to the group and the game as a whole. But if your players like the fantastic setting, if they like the you know, when you play around with the fear of the unknown, if they like those kind of things, go for it. Forget about the stats. Just run the combat as narrative combat. Roll the dice. Be consistent. So if they hit on a 15, they should keep hitting on a 15 unless something really changes. That aspect, to me, I like having that aspect, because the random roll of a dice brings something new to the table. It brings something to the table that is difficult to predict. Someone messing up something, someone doing a critical hit. If you go back to Earthdawn, which has a thing I both love and hate. They have infinite damage. So when you roll your damage dice, it's usually a combination of dice, because that's how Earthdawn is done. So maybe you roll 1 die T plus 1 die 10 plus 1 die 6. But if you roll max on anything, normally that you go, oh, that's 16 max. However, if on any dice you roll the maximum number on that dice, you just re-roll and add to the score. So we've seen people rolling 1 die 6 and doing 30, 40 points of damage once in a while. You just roll a handful of 6s. Or people's worst or most, or least liked damage step or roll die step is the one that gives you 1 die 20 plus 1 die 4. Because we've seen it so many times that the die 4 gives a higher score in total, you know, with the infinite reroll on max, than the die 20. Because you have a die 20 and you roll a 2. It's just like, I could have rolled 10 times as much. So there's a lot of spread on that. But that's also fun, because you have, it's usually the fighter types, and in the beginning of the game, when they hit that, they're strong, they have a big weapon, then you hit that horrible step, especially for damage. And you can either do an insane amount of damage, or you can do none at all. Now, the thief with a dagger, even without sneak attacks, stuff like that, it's gonna give, just stab you with a knife, it's gonna, on average, gonna give more than a low score on this. Over time, the step is gonna shine through and it's gonna give a lot of damage, but still, it throws people off to have that spread. I also need to figure out, I need some more paint. But the infinite damage gives some incredible chance at epic storytelling. I mean, David and Goliath, you have a sling, and if you have a normal person with a normal sling in D&D, what are the odds of you killing a giant assuming the giant is unhurt and not suffering from illnesses or old age or whatever. It's just a standard prime of his life giant. You throw a rock at it. It's never gonna go down in one hit. In regular battle, they know each other. It's no sneak attack. There's no surprise. It's just two people straight up fighting. But in systems with infinite damage, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, at least the first edition, which I'm most familiar with, had the same. Not as frequent as in Earthdawn, but still possible. And I mean, in Earthdawn, we've seen these characters, being lucky. You have a high damage step, and you just roll. One of them, something like a D12, D10, and a D8 for extra damage from whatever effect, and you just roll max on all of them. That's the first 30 points of damage, and then you roll again. And we've seen people take down, not the great horrors, because we rarely see them in play, but horror constructs or lesser horrors, and they just come up and they just do 100 points of damage. And it's almost the same sort of hit point range as D&D. About less hit points in Earthdawn than in D&D, but it's sort of the same. So 100 points of damage is a lot, and it comes at a time where you actually couldn't factor it in. There's a risk or a chance, depending on who you are, but the actual sort of planning for it. I mean, if you're a fighter or whatever, you take a standard sword with your standard modifiers in D&D, you have a pretty good idea about what damage output is going to be. It's going to be some spread to it because of dice, but having this wild card going, oh well, you look at that, I rolled a 20, I get to reroll, and I get to reroll, and I get to reroll, and the DM or the players, depending on who's lucky, they just go, oh no, this is bad, this is really bad, this is incredibly bad, oh my god, oh shit, we're gonna die. But I like that because it's this unpredictability that takes the games from just sitting around the campfire telling stories and coming up with whatever random shit you want, and then actually giving you something that prompts you to explain what happened and affects the outcome. So you can plan to a certain degree, but the dice rolling will sometimes mean that you have to completely on the fly rethink what is happening. Like, you have the bad guy coming in. I saw this in Shadowrun, which doesn't have infinite damage, but it does have the potential for a lot of damage output you don't really see. So I made the scene where the big bad guy, the boss fight guy, was exiting the elevator, and things had gone haywire. It was a sort of cyberpunkish setting. So everything was going bad, and they were pinned down by crossfire, and then of course the bad guy and the boss, he had to make an entrance. So he walks out of the elevator, awesome sunglasses, leather coat, stuff like that. Then one of them just takes a look at him, pops 2 grenades in his general direction, and more or less blasts him into little bits and pieces, and just goes, no, it wasn't that, it was phosphorus grenades. So it basically turned him into a Human Torch, at which point he survived because he was that nasty, and ran down the stairs screaming, trying to find some way of putting himself out. So because I didn't want to go, okay, so you fire the grenades, and they're dots because I don't want this guy to be damaged by them. I mean, that would have been bad DMing on my part. I just went, okay, so you're doing how much damage? Well, he survives, but he is not feeling good, so he's running away. And that completely changed what I thought, from what I thought would be happening in that encounter. So it wasn't the fight with the bad guy. It was just a memorable moment where they just blew him up. And this is like more than 20 years ago. And the people when I played with back then, when I still talk to them about it, we all remember that scene. Because it was actually sort of anticlimactic in the sense that this is so clearly the bad guy, and one of them just going plop plop, 2 grenades, and it goes boom, burn, run away. So yeah. And to me that that effect, remembering that is so much more fun. And I love that my players give me these situations, because it's a good challenge to change what goes on, but it also helps do these memorable moments. Oh shoot, I'm gonna get sued by Disney for that, aren't I? Oh well, whatever. But just having those pop up because of player actions is basically why I keep playing this game year after year after year. Role-playing games in general. I'm pretty agnostic when it comes to systems. It's not agnostic, it's called something else. I don't care if it's one system or the other, I can always make it work. If I'm in a group, players, DMs, whatever, who want to make it work and want it to be storytelling, we can always make it work. That is my philosophy. And I can see that it is getting close to 8:30, which I've decided should be the end today, because I am a wee bit tired, so doing a full 2 hours is going to be too much. So I think that leaving on the note of we can make it work seems suitable, the state of affairs in the world and everywhere else. Thank you for tuning in. It's been lovely having you here. Thank you for the lurks. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for cheering me on with the kittens over the past weeks, months, whatever. They will arrive in I'll go pick them up on Friday, less than 2 days from now, less than 48 hours. And I will have kittens again. I will have cats. I will disappear into a hole never to be heard from again, because who really needs anything more than a few cats? Well. So once I'm done painting this rock gray, I will go see if we can find someone to raid. Any of you have suggestions for a raid, let me know. Otherwise I'll just see who's online. If no one's online, I'm just gonna pick someone random and go drag all of you with me onto new adventures. I cannot promise there will be horrors, because I may not know who you're raiding, but I'm sure there will be lovely people. So there we go. I mean, I didn't get to the shading and gluing on the minis, but that's fine. Getting some kind of progress done is always good. And again, don't do what I do what I say. Do not leave your knives without the cover on. That is highly dangerous, especially if you leave it straight in front of your keyboard. So, like me, I was just about to put my hands down on top of a sharp knife, which is not really what I want. So unhappy, we have a couple of people online. Bear with me for a second. Because I still haven't found a good solution to this. If I have the speakers on so I can actually hear what goes on when I raid, then that gets picked up by my microphone, at least some partially. But if I don't do it, then I cannot hear what people say when I raid them, which leads to some awkward, oh hi, where are you from moments where I don't reply. But let's go take a look at Moco Made. They're doing art of various kinds. That is always fun. So thank you for joining in on this Wednesday. Thank you for being here, having fun. Thank you for not making me braid my beard. We're gonna have to do that next time, if people have the points for it. stay tuned, and we will go join Moko Mate. The music, I should point out, has been, as always, Adrian von Ziegler. Very, very talented, very kind person who lets me and everyone else who's doing streams or free work. Let's use his music. And the raid did not work, but let's just try that again. Okay, I am not. There we go.